coming at you from the Hey Yo Studios. It's the Fade Route with D and Z. Here are your hosts, D and Z.
Coming at you live from the Ayo Studio.
Hey.
It's the Fade Route with D and Z. I am D, and we've got a great show for you tonight. The New York Rangers are hot. The Warriors are headed south. And the college football playoff has sparked quite the debate. But we'll begin today's show with the winter baseball meetings. And we've got a trade that's imminent. It appears that Juan Soto and Trent Grisham will be making their way to the Bronx for about 6 players, 6 prospects, mostly pitchers. The Padres were looking to cut bait with Soto. It just wasn't working out there. There were a number of teams that were interested, but the Yankees seem to have their guy. Now, there's no talk about an extension. This is a 1-year rental. He's going to come to the Bronx and maybe have an Aaron Judge type season and look to sign a long-term deal with the Yankees or another suitor. But Z, this is a splash. I tried to downplay it when you texted me, but the more I think about it and the more I look at it, this could be a big deal for the Bronx Bombers.
I mean, it's a Bronx bombshell. Plain and simple. You're getting this. You couple this with the Alex Verdugo trade that we're going to talk about later, and the Yankees have completely remade their lineup, and they've completely remade their outfield, which was the drizzling shits last year.
Yeah.
Right? Willie Calhoun, Billy McKinney, Estevan Florial, the immortal Jake Bowers. Those guys aren't getting burned on this team, right? They're gone. They're gone. They don't need them anymore. Like Brian Cashman, does not need to rely on quadruple A outfielders to fill these roles. Because you're bringing in Juan Soto, who is a 3-time All-Star, World Series winner. He's got a batting title. He's a guy. He's definitely a stud player. Now, to fill out the depth, you bring in a Trent Grisham, who's good in small doses. He's not a guy that you can necessarily rely on to be a long-term cog. I mean, look, last year, right? He hit 198, popped 13 homers, 15 steals, 50 ribbies. That's kind of who he is, He's a good, back end kind of guy. That's what you're getting from Trent Grisham. He'll spell any of these 3 guys defensively, or he'll give them a blow if they need a day off. And it's a coup that the Yankees were able to pull this off for the reported haul that they're giving up. So,
he's 26 years old.
Yeah.
He's a champion. He's gonna adapt to the Bronx very well. Mm-hmm. You're putting him either before or after Judge, so you're gonna have the righty lefty or lefty righty, right? Yep. And you're gonna have Verdugo lefty. You're gonna have, assuming Rizzo comes back, lefty. So the lineup is definitely shaping out really well. The only issue I have, and this is a guy who led the National League in walks last year. That's surprising too. That's very impressive. It's not an issue, but I'm pretty sure he's represented by Scott Boras, and he's gonna be a free agent.
Yeah.
So the question becomes: Is this a disaster if you're unable to re-sign this man?
It would be a disaster if you gave up your Dominguez's, your Pereiras, your Perazzas, if you gave up the top shelf prospects and then couldn't close the deal. You're looking at Michael King, who's good. Like, Michael King has proven his worth, right? He'll slot in kind of where Seth Lugo was. Now that Seth Lugo's no longer with the Padres, he'll be like a 3-4, somewhere in there, unless they want to use him out of the bullpen where he's even better. I really like King out of the bullpen, but apparently I'm in the minority. The Yankees really like his stuff out of the rotation. I think you Jabba Chamberlain this kid. He's a more prolific reliever, and you're stretching him out for what? Randy Vasquez, who we saw last year, Johnny Brito, who we saw last year, Drew Thorpe, who is the only like real prospect in here, and Kyle Higashioka. That's what's going back the other way.
Yeah.
So you
Ashioka was a big deal, but the good thing is like Soto plays, man. He doesn't really get hurt. Like he plays a lot.
Now, what do you do with Giancarlo Stanton now is the question. Like, you have Verdugo, you have Judge, you have Soto, or you will have Soto, you'll have Grisham. Those guys are going to need days off too. So you're going to have, how are you going to integrate?
You don't really have to.
You're going to give Rizzo a day off. You're going to need to give LeMahieu a day off. These guys are older.
Yeah, you're not going to have to worry because Stanton's going to get hurt. You're just not. He's going to get hurt. So I would assume that. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. I would assume Judge is going to move to center, right?
That's the idea.
And then I would assume Soto's going to play right and Verdugo's going to play left.
Yeah,
that's what I would look at it.
That's the presumed alignment.
It's just interesting that I heard Boone say that they were eyeing Verdugo for a while because he plays with an edge. It's just odd to me that you would go after a guy who plays in your division that they've got the book on him. Like, they've got the book on Verdugo. You know what I'm saying? And do you think his best years are ahead of him? I mean, if Boston soured on him, or did Boston just want to dump salary to try to get Ohtani?
A combination of the two.
Yeah.
If you think about it, because he's also got a rep in Boston, and he was benched multiple times by Alex Cora for not hustling.
Yeah. He's got an attitude. Boone says it's an edge. It's more like he's an asshole. Like, that's what it is,
Totally.
So listen, I when we first talked about it earlier in the day, I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was actually a waste of time, honestly. But then when I looked at his numbers and I thought about him playing in that lineup and I thought about what he's going to bring defensively, I was like, okay, no, this is going to be good for the Yankees. And then I was just like, wait a minute. If they don't re-sign him, was this a waste of time? And like you said, it's not, because they really didn't give up much. I mean, someone going after the Yankees farm system is clearly not doing their homework, because that's a poor prank, honestly.
Well, think about that from the Padres' perspective, though. They went all in on this, right? They not only did they go all in on this, but from what I heard from my sources was, for the other teams looking for Soto, they didn't want as many prospects as they did from the New York Yankees. Is that a little odd? They wanted 6 prospects from the Yankees, but they only wanted 3 from every other team. So I'm guessing that they're taking 6 lesser end prospects. They're going quantity over quality because they know the Yankees can absorb the money.
Yeah, a person told me it was more of, they knew the Yankees were desperate and they could get more out of the Yankees because they needed this.
Yeah, but
there wasn't.
Did they get the best out of the Yankees, though? Like, if I got you over the barrel, right?
Yeah, if I don't know that.
Leverage, I want the sun, the moon, and the stars.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what they're trying to do over in San Diego, because what they just did, was kind of a lost season.
Need a little inspiration in the kitchen? Want to try something new? Or maybe you just need a new YouTube cooking show to binge? Well, I have the answer for all three. As You Eat It, hosted by me, Z. I invite you into my home and show you methods designed to empower and inspire you in the kitchen. Cook how you want to cook, eat how you want to eat as you eat it. That's As You Eat It, available only on YouTube. AZ, You Eat It. Check it out and let's get cooking.
Speaking of not knowing what's going on, the college football playoff is set, Z. Alabama really ruined everything for everybody by beating Georgia over the weekend, because they knocked Georgia out of the playoff, who had won 29 straight games and was pretty much the number one team in America for all of the college football season. The final rankings, here we have it. It's Michigan at number 1, Washington at number 2, Texas at number 3, and Alabama at 4. This was the debate on Sunday. This was a debate on Monday. This was a debate yesterday. So, Z, how are you ordering it up, and what did you think of this committee selections?
Oh, well, let's see here. Texas beat Alabama head-to-head.
Early in the season.
Early in the season. Doesn't matter. A win's a win.
Well,
a win is a win.
Well, I mean, Florida's also undefeated, so.
Well, let's get there.
Okay.
Right? Let's get there.
All right.
Because.
All right, a win is a win. A win is a win. Texas, yes.
Head-to-head, win is a win. Okay.
All right.
So
Texas.
you're looking at that. Texas is in.
Okay.
Florida State is undefeated. Okay. Washington has the number 1 passing attack in the country, and they're also undefeated. And Michigan, despite all of their transgressions this year, particularly their coach, they are not just undefeated. They're beating the doors off of people. So they have to be in. If you're looking at this from a standpoint, like, the odd man out is Alabama, because I would say that the 3 undefeated teams are 1 through 3, right? The 3 undefeated teams, because they're undefeated.
Okay.
And now you're splitting hairs, you're picking nits between the Texas Longhorns and the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Oh, okay.
Now, for me, the head-to-head makes a difference. Right? A win is a win. They knocked off Alabama, so Alabama's out, in my opinion. Plus, if you look at the statistics, if you look at what's going on, Texas, statistically, is a better team than Alabama. So, even though they're an SEC team, and, it'll be a travesty if the SEC isn't represent, bullshit. Bullshit.
Bull roar.
Bullshit. Horse hockey. Lest we forget, the ACC is a Power 5 conference, and lest we forget that a team from the ACC has won the national championship in recent history, that being the Clemson Tigers. So, the way I see it, Texas at 4, you penalize Florida State a little bit because they don't have their quarterback. Okay, Jordan Travis he's not there. So, they're still undefeated. However, they're not as good as the other 2, Washington or Michigan. Like, J.J. McCarthy's playing great. Michael Penix Jr., he's in the Final 4 for the Heisman. I gotta put, the way Michigan is killing teams, I gotta put Michigan at 1. I gotta put Washington at 2. Florida State at 3, and Texas at 4.
Okay.
Like that, if that's how I'm gonna rank them.
Okay.
And then let the chips fall where they may. Have at it, boss. But I gotta say those 4 are the best of the bunch.
Yeah, I actually can get on board with that. I never thought of it like that. That makes a lot of sense. Like, okay, yeah, Alabama beat Georgia. Georgia, you're out. But Texas beat Alabama, so Texas gets the 4th spot. I'm fair. I can get on board with that. CZ, my problem is with the committee is they looked at Florida State and they're like, oh, you lost your quarterback. Oh man, and you were struggling to get first downs against Louisville. You only beat Louisville by 10. Oh, you're out.
Right.
I have a problem with that. These guys, they beat everybody in front of them. They're in a Power 5 conference. That was the whole purpose of this playoff, right? The purpose of this playoff was so that teams like TCU or Boise State or in this situation Florida State, they get their say. They get a shot. Well, whether it's at number 3 or number 4. How could you not let this team compete? How could you? Because they lost one player, and the backup would have been back for the bowl game. He just got a concussion, and that's why he didn't play this past weekend. But come on.
I got two words for you. Cardale Jones. You're telling me that a backup can't come in and win the whole fucking thing? I
forgot all about that guy. That's a very valid point there. So my whole thing is like, if it's a TV show, then what are we doing this for? Then let's stop doing this. You guys pick whatever teams are at the end. It doesn't even matter what their records are. Just put whoever you want to see play, because that's what you did here. And see, I'm a little different than you, because the other part is like, yeah, Alabama beat Georgia, but they also just barely beat Auburn. Like, if Auburn's coach was a smarter football mind, instead of letting the Alabama quarterback sit back on 4th and goal from the 30 and take all day to pass the ball, we're not even having this conversation, because Alabama doesn't even get into the SEC championship game. Like, we're not even talking about this. And wait a minute. They only beat Georgia by 3 on a neutral site when Georgia was down 2 of their best receivers. Like, listen, I understand that Texas beat Alabama, but that was in the beginning of the season. A lot's changed since then, right? I mean, we found out what Alabama is. That Alabama win is not that great when you think about it at the beginning of the season, and it diminishes what Alabama did against Georgia, in my opinion. So I think it's terrible, because it doesn't matter. And you know what the crazy part about the Z is next year when you move to 12, right? It behooves you not to play the championship game, right? Because the championship game could ruin everything for you. You're playing an extra game where you could lose your quarterback or you could lose your running back. Like, next year, it doesn't matter. 1 through 12 doesn't matter. All I got to do is get in. So I just got to I could be Texas or I could be Oregon, and I still got a chance. It doesn't matter. You understand what I'm trying to say? Like that, they're diminishing the value of a championship game by moving to 12 teams, right? Because how could you not say that everybody who plays in the championship game is going to make it into the college playoff with 12 teams? How could they not?
You're absolutely right. No.
How could they not? Right. So it doesn't really matter, right? It's a pride thing. And we might even rest players, or we might not even show everything we got in the title game, because the title game doesn't matter. What matters is that I get to the final 4 teams.
And at what point does this become like the NCAA tournament, where we're talking about, we have 6 SEC teams in here? Because there are levels to this. There are levels to this. The SEC is head and shoulders above most conferences. So,
but this year they weren't, though, right? But this year they weren't, right? This year the SEC was garbage, and the Big Ten was garbage. The best division was the Pac-12, right?
Which is no longer around.
Which is no longer around, right? ACC was awful, right? So here's how I scored it. I mean, Michigan's won, but to be honest with you, they didn't look great against Iowa. Yeah, they shut them out, but I mean, it's Iowa. Washington at 2. Okay. Now I'm with you on FSU at 3. I think FSU gets 3, and to me, Georgia still gets to be 4, because they get to defend their title, and they were undefeated and the best team in the country all year. And because Alabama beat them by 3 at in a neutral site, they're out of the playoff altogether. Like I'd rather see Georgia there. I don't care that Alabama beat them. That doesn't bother me. That doesn't mean anything to me. That knocks them down 3. It doesn't knock them down 6. Right? I mean, no. I understand, and I appreciate your argument for Texas. I can get on board with Texas. I could also get on board with Alabama at 4, but I can't get on board with FSU being out. That just doesn't sit well with me. It shouldn't sit well with them, and it shouldn't sit well with any college football fan.
No, it shouldn't. Absolutely not. This is the UCF incident all over again, except it's a bigger school.
Right.
And the whole point of this was that it was supposed to eliminate stuff like this. It was supposed to eliminate the BCS.
This is there is, and FSU had quality wins. They had quality wins. I mean, you look, Georgia had a cupcake schedule. If you want to really talk about it, you really want to talk about it like that, we could. My only defense for Georgia is they won last year. They should be able to defend their title, and they only lost by 3 out on neutral site. That doesn't knock you out of the playoff. That knocks you down a couple pegs. Now, what would have happened if on the last play of the game the Alabama quarterback broke his wrist? Then what? Oh fuck. Oh, I don't know. I don't know now. Now, does that change? Because honestly, Z, I think it's unfair for Michigan to have to play Alabama. I think it's unfair. I don't think it's fair. I actually think Alabama might be a better team than Michigan.
What concerns me is that
congrats, Michigan, on going 12-0 and being number 1 in the country. Guess what? You get to play Alabama in the first college playoff game.
Yeah, you get to play a
thanks.
You get to play a low-level NFL team.
Thanks. Yeah. Like, I'm so glad we worked so hard to get here.
No, completely, and that's what you have to be concerned about, because Alabama might be just peaking at the right time.
Right.
Like that's what you have to be concerned about. Like that's
sure.
But
sure.
From the same standpoint, the committee, when putting this together, no doubt has last year stuck in their head. 65-7, and TCU not showing up. Because of TCU.
Yeah.
Now, the idea of best versus deserving. Now, I understand, like, the people who say that they're still kind of stinging from that, and they want to make sure it doesn't happen again, and that's why you're keeping Florida State out. I understand your argument. I disagree with your argument. But I understand where you're coming from. Logically, it makes sense to me. Because at the end of the day, these are TV shows. Right? And the last thing you want is for people to tune out in the second quarter because it's 48-0.
But here's the deal. Is like, they're not going to get, like, I don't think that in this situation, this year, I don't think you'd have FSU beat Washington. I don't think FSU would beat Michigan. You understand? Like, I don't think they're going to make it to the championship game, but they've earned a right to be in the 4.
Yes.
They've earned that right. Give them that much. It's still going to be a good game. I think if they played Michigan, it would be a good game. I don't know if they played Washington. If they played Michigan, it'd be a good game. It wouldn't be 67-5 or 67-7. It wouldn't be like that, but it'd be a good game. But they've earned it. And I get what you're saying about best versus deserving. But if you're gonna talk about best, then fuck the schedules, fuck the records, throw all that stuff out the window, because that doesn't mean anything anymore. That's my only thing. If we're gonna go that route,
if we're gonna talk about best, colleges should not make their schedule. You shouldn't be.
Here's what I think. I think we've talked about this on the show before. I think they should be able to schedule their first 6, but not their last 7. Like, your first 6 games, you can pick out, you can hand pick them, and then based on the way everybody else is playing in the country, a committee will determine the next 7 games or the next
Right.
5 games, the next 6 games. That's more competitive because you know what? I want to see Alabama play Texas in week 8.
Right.
I want to see Washington play FSU in week 9. I want to see Michigan play Washington in week 10. Like that eliminate. Then we find out who's really good.
Yeah.
Then we're really going to find out who the best teams are. Like, stop doing the cupcakes all year round, and at the end of the season, let's have some meaningful games where we're not looking at your division, we're not looking at your conference. You're going to go play the best team in the country. Alabama's 6-0, you're 6-0. See you next Tuesday. One of you is not going to be 6-0 anymore. That's all. That solves the problem. That solves the problem completely. And then you just keep doing that. You just keep scheduling that all the way down until the end. Especially now if you're going to move to this 12 team where even if Alabama loses that game, it doesn't matter anymore, right? Because now we're going to have teams with multiple losses in the playoffs. Now you don't got to be perfect, which I think also is going to change the landscape of college football. Because now I don't have to go 12-0. I don't have to go 10-1 or 11-2. I don't have to. I just got to be a top 12 team. In fact, I could rest players. I could change things around now. It's going to be interesting the way it goes, but like we talked about before, I don't want to see the top 12 teams. I don't care. I don't care. Maybe the top 6, but again, I don't need to see Oregon again. I know what they're about. I'm good.
But that's who you're going to see. That's the problem.
I know. And Texas, I mean, you got Texas in year 4. That's fine. I don't need to see Texas play again. I'm good. I'm glad they turned it on towards the end of the year, and I'm glad they beat Alabama. That's great, but I'm good.
Especially with a season like this. You're going to see Ohio State.
Okay. Oh, that's another team we'd have to see. We'd have to see that trash again. We'd have to see that team play. We'd have to see Oregon. We got to see garbage. I don't want to see garbage.
You want to see Penn State again?
No, that's another one. But anyways,
Oklahoma.
Yeah,
These are who do you get this year?
Yeah, we're gonna have to see this. Oh, I want to see it, and it's gonna go longer and longer. I don't want to deal with it. But now that Championships Week's over, the Heisman finalists have been announced. We have Bo Nix from Oregon, Marvin Harrison Jr. from Ohio State, Michael Penix Jr. from Washington, and Jaden Daniels from LSU. Pretty cut and dry, Z. Who you got here?
I mean, if you're looking for...
I think we're going to be unanimous on this. I mean,
we'll see. We will definitely see. I got to say, if you're looking at it from a statistical standpoint, you have to look at Jaden Daniels, and you have to say that this guy is head and shoulders above everybody else because of a number of turnovers that he has not committed, right? He's 40 touchdowns, 4 picks, like just as good. Now, he also has a 95.7 QBR, best in the country, right? Yeah, Bo Nix put up more yards. He has 1 fewer pick, but not as good. In the big moments, what was he doing? Crying on the sideline. You know, like he couldn't get the job done in the big moment. Michael Penix Jr., another guy, very good.
Lefty, love the lefty.
Always wanted a lefty, as the great Archie Manning once said. 33 touchdowns, 9 picks. The 9 picks takes you out of contention.
Yeah.
And if you look at Marvin Harrison's number 6,
but he was playing in Pac-12. Give him some credit, man.
I'll give him credit. He's the best player in a division that's no longer exists. Good for you. You're the last great player.
Thanks for playing.
Yeah. So you can close the door and turn out the lights on the way out. And Marvin Harrison, 67 catches, 1,211 yards, 14 touchdowns for Ohio State. Okay, so you definitely, when you take into account it's for Ohio State, sure. But those really aren't, the 14 touchdowns, yes. The other ones, okay. Like, I'm thinking about this moving forward. Like, those are okay production numbers.
Yeah.
Not great. Like, I'm looking at these guys, right? your top 4 Heisman finalists are guys who you project to play on Sunday. And Marvin Harrison Jr., those numbers, that'll get you maybe as a number 2 receiver. So, for me, based on what we've seen, based on what they've done, I got to go personally with Jaden Daniels taking this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think he's going to be a decent pro. We got 6'4", 210. You got to imagine he's going to gain about 15 pounds. So he's probably going to be like 225, 6'4", 225. 38,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Yes, please. Yes, please. Yeah, I think it's pretty cut and dry. Bo Nix, I mean, he was okay. Like, I didn't see him do anything that blew me away. Like, oh, wow, we got to have this guy. Or, I want to watch him play. But Jaden Daniels was must-see TV. I do like Penix Jr., and I could get on board with that because especially, I mean, it's a regular season thing, right? But, I mean, his team is number 2 in the country. They've got the potential to win the national championship. I think you mentioned they're the best passing team in college football this year. So I can't get mad at him if he were to win. That would be nice. Marvin Harrison Jr., I mean, he's playing for Ohio State. I know it sounds weird. He kind of reminded me of Santonio Holmes. Like, that's what he reminded of me. He reminded me of Santonio Holmes this season, just in his ability to get open, get the ball, score. But that, to me, that wasn't like a worthwhile, Heisman thing. I mean, he's good.
So you just think they needed a 4th? So they just...
No, I think it's fine that he got nominated. I just don't think he could win it. I don't think it was like Randy Moss status. When I think about other wide receivers that were finalists or Larry Fitzgerald or anything like that, he's good. He's good. He played in a team with a lot of stars, a lot of, NFL ready players. I think he'll have success in the NFL, but I think the award should be going to Jaden Daniels.
I mean, as a non-cornerback, he already is behind the 8 ball, right? You have Devontae Smith, you have Desmond Howard, and Tim Brown, right? So
yeah.
The 3 in recent memory.
Yeah, that's tough.
So this is pretty much, you might as well call it the quarterback award.
Yeah, they got to get away from that too. I mean, it's tough in college, but there are other deserving positions. It doesn't have to be this quarterback thing, especially in a year where there was, ups and downs all over the place. You know what I mean?
Definitely, but you don't have a game-wrecking defensive player. You don't have a stud running back.
Yeah.
You didn't even have like a cover corner. So, you kind of have to take what is available to you. And, his stats definitely shine brightly for Marvin Harrison Jr., but when you're looking at the rest of it, though, and you're looking at the command and the cachet of the quarterback position, it just doesn't match up. It just doesn't add up. So, I get it. I get it. But you're absolutely right. They do need to get away from the quarterback only, much in the way the NFL needs to get rid of the the MVP being a quarterback-driven award.
Avoid messy accidents. Get better stopping power with your brake pads. Callahan brake pads. You never know when you'll be driving in the road and there will be a truck tire that you need to avoid and save your family. Callahan Auto. We really care about what's under your hood.
Speaking of quarterbacks, or lack thereof, more garbage from the New York Jets. Not only did they lose to the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday, Tim Boyle played, if you call it that, got benched for Trevor Siemian, and played, if you call it that. But no Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson was seen on the sideline next to Aaron Rodgers kind of smirking and shrugging his shoulders, saying like, these guys, really? Okay. So now rumors have swirled in the past few days that Zach Wilson told the Jets he didn't want to return for them next season. He didn't want to finish this season under center when they called for him to start. And, well, who's walking back comments now? Because guess who's starting on Sunday? Guess who? So Saleh refuted the comments that Zach Wilson didn't want to play again and said that if that was the case, he wouldn't be on the Jets. Well, lo and behold, Zach Wilson is still on the Jets. He's clearly better than Boyle and Simeon and Brett Rippon, who they just brought in because they cut Boyle. Just, they lanced the Boyle.
They lanced the Boyle.
So,
that's awesome.
Will the Jets win another game this season? And should Zach Wilson go back in for the Jets this season?
Yeah, I mean, a lot has happened the last 24 hours. Like we were talking about in the production meeting, yesterday the rumors were circling that Zach told the Jets he didn't want to play again for them. And then Saleh refuted those conversations, saying that Zach was just in his office and asking him for the football. And then Saleh went on to say that he wasn't ready to give Zach another chance. And then today after practice, they cut Tim Boyle, signed Rippon, and Zach's not only the starter for this weekend, but he's the starter for the rest of the season, according to Robert Saleh. What is this, Z? What does this guy got to do to get fired? Like, what has to happen for Robert Saleh to lose his job? Because defensively, they're not that good anymore, right? They're not. They're exposed. They haven't been playing good defense. They lost to the Falcons 13-8. The Falcons in Desmond Ridder. Like, they lost. They got blowed out by the Dolphins. They got blowed out by the Bills. They got blowed out by the Chargers. So what does this man have to do in the next 5 games to lose his job? Does he have to like stab Woody Johnson, or does he have to? What does he have to? Does he have to pull an Antonio Brown, like take off his sweater and run off the field without a shirt on? Like, what does this man have to do to lose his job? Because clearly he's not making decisions. Okay, there's no way Robert Saleh is making the decisions on who's playing for this football team. When on Tuesday you say you're not ready to give Zach the ball back, and on Wednesday you cut Boyle, you sign Rippon, and named Zach the starter for the rest of the season. What the hell did he do in the practice on Wednesday, man? He must have lit it up. Is he just throwing darts everywhere? Like what? Like, what is happening? As far as how many games they're going to win, I mean, this weekend's going to probably be the worst game, right? Because this weekend they're going to play the Texans with a true number 2 overall pick in Stroud. Okay, so that might lead to his termination when they die this weekend. Then they're going to go to Miami to play the Dolphins, where Tyreek Hill is attempting to get to 2,000 yards in the season, and he's going to need the Jets to help him out with that. They probably could win the Commanders game. They could win the Commanders game on Christmas Eve, I think. The Browns game in Cleveland, that might be painful because the Browns actually play really good defense. And the Patriot game in New England, I don't think if that's the last game Bill Belichick's going to coach as the Patriots, he ain't losing to the Jets.
Well, that becomes another issue too, because if he doesn't lose, then they probably don't miss out on the number 2 overall pick. So that game is going to be intriguing for a multitude.
Nobody wants to win.
No, nobody. And the Cleveland Brown game is going to be interesting because who's under center for Cleveland? Well, Mr. Joe Flacco. And wouldn't it have been nice if Joe Flacco was here to take the beating instead of Zach Wilson? A professional beating taker, a la Andy Dalton.
Andrew
Dalton. put respect on his name.
Respect.
Can the Jets will do something stupid and go on like a 2-game winning streak at the end of the year. Like, that's what they'll do. You know, like, they have nothing to play for. They're absolutely toast. And then they'll win the last 2 or 3 games of the season.
Right, because he can't go winless, right? Because if he went winless, I mean, everybody loses their job, right?
Yeah, but here's my thing. Nobody's losing a job until next season, at the end of next season. Because the moment Aaron Rodgers' leg exploded, this season was a wash. Regardless of result. Like, they got to pass. Both Douglas and Saleh got to pass. Because the guy that they invested so heavily in and built the entire team around is gone in the blink of an eye. In the flash of a light. It's over, Johnny. It's over. So now, this season was about triage. Like, how are we going to salvage this? And the answer was, we're not.
We're not going to be better next year.
No. So the best thing you're going to do is hope for the best that Aaron Rodgers' surgically repaired leg is 100%, and that this offensive line is improved because it's terrible, and Zach Wilson is nowhere near this team next year. And that of those
I just don't see it though. Like, listen, I think he's a good quarterback, borderline great quarterback, but one player doesn't make the difference, right? Even Tom went to Tampa that was already loaded. Like, they were loaded already. This team ain't loaded. This team is not loaded. They can't protect the quarterback. They can't call plays. Zach Wilson he tripped over his own feet running into the huddle 2 weeks ago.
If that's not a metaphor for the season, I don't know what it is.
And then laughed as he got up and ran back to the huddle.
Oh God!
But listen, if you're Zach, I mean, you don't want to play for these guys anymore, do you?
No way. Here's one.
Like, are you coming down with COVID like on Sunday or Saturday? Like, is that your out?
If I'm Zach, I'm trying to angle my way to Tampa Bay to back up Baker Mayfield, a guy who I feel like I have similar skill set to.
A guy I think I'm better than.
I don't know. Very similar to. Now, I think a system like that would benefit him rather than trying to be Aaron Rodgers. Right?
Like, I don't get it. I just don't get it. How does this guy get to play so much? How does Tim Boyle get fired? Like, if I'm him, I'm like, what the fuck did I do wrong? Why am I leaving? You're calling the plays.
My question is, who told Tim Boyle that he was good enough in high school to try and pursue a college career? Because he was awful in college. And then who filled his head and said,
who
buddy,
made this man a captain?
And who told him that, son, you could have a future as an NFL quarterback?
Do you think
who lied to this man?
I wonder if when Zach Wilson's watching the game, like, he's watching how bad Boyle is, watching how bad Trevor Siemian is, like, oh shit. Oh shit, man.
I mean, he at least went
I think that's where this all came from, right? I think what happened was, he got demoted to third, and I think he was whispering to Rodgers or whispering to another teammate and be like, listen, they demoted me to third. They don't know what they're doing here. I ain't playing for this team anymore. Like, I think that's what happened. And then either somebody heard that, or a player went to the media and said that's what he said, and that's how this got all the way up to the chain. And then once he found out it got to Saleh, he's like, all right, let me go up there and ask him and tell him I want to play again, see if I can get my job back. Because that's the only thing I could think of. Like, because why would you want to go back in at this point? Like,
well,
why?
You have to play nice. And here's why you're playing nice. Because 31 other teams are watching you.
But
right?
even
If
for the
you're
Jets,
gone-
like, why would you even play him? He could get hurt, and then you've really screwed this up.
the Jets really have no reason to go back to him other than that there's nobody left.
There's nobody left.
There's
But
nobody
they're-
left. It's plain and simple. They're awful. They're absolutely awful. There's nobody left.
Meanwhile,
And they
the
don't
Browns.
want- they don't-
Meanwhile, the Browns win games with P.J. Walker. The Bengals win games with Josh Browning, right?
Jake Brown, Josh Dobbs in Minnesota.
Jake Browning. Josh Dobbs is winning games in Minnesota, but Zach Wilson can't hit the open receiver and runs in the wrong direction.
And then, like Coach Saleh isn't doing himself any favors either. He's compounding his mess with the media because he's talking to Joe Beningo, and then Joe Beningo was leaking the texts. On
Poor
radio.
job by their PR department, I have to say, because they're either not prepping him before these calls or he ain't listening, because he goes back on his word. Like, I don't believe anything he says anymore. You tell me one day that you don't trust Zach anymore, and then the next day you name him the starter for the rest of the season, not Sunday. Like, the Patriots haven't even named a quarterback for Sunday, but you're coming out and saying he's the quarterback the rest of the season.
I don't know.
My
man.
God.
Like, the Patriots have their own issues.
My God.
Yeah.
But another-
you know
yeah,
what?
but another-
They're only as loyal as your options. Think
Yeah, I
about
guess.
that, right? And think about this, right? Yeah, at least Zach Wilson can hang his hat on the fact that he went to BYU. Tim Boyle went to UConn, right? So you have the immortal Dan Orlovsky and him. So
Nice.
great. And then Trevor Siemian from Northwestern. What more do you need to know? You've got two quarterbacks from colleges who have crap football teams.
Joe Flacco almost won a game last weekend as the quarterback of the Browns.
Step outside of your safe area and make a statement without saying much with FCK Clout Lifestyle Apparel. Embrace the colorful chaos and stay emotionally regulated in their hoodies, snapbacks, graphic tees, accessories, and more. Season 3 merch is up now. Get it while you can. Go to fckclout.com and get all of your needs from men and women. That's fckclout.com.
Moving on, another sinking ship. The Golden State Warriors are 3-7 in their last 10 and 9-11 on the season. They opted to bring in Chris Paul, your favorite player. Steph is 35. Draymond is a menace, and they did not sign Clay to an extension, even though they probably should have given him 3 years, $100 million. Is it time to blow this team up, or is it too early to know what the Warriors are going to be this season?
I mean, they're still averaging 115 points a game. Scoring is up in the NBA. Now, a lot of that is inflated because of the in-season tournament, where running up the score is not only encouraged, but part of the advancement. So I think that is going to taper down a little bit, and teams that don't have anything to play for aren't going to try and run up the score anymore because there's no reason to run up the score. Right? So, Boston will sit their guys now. Milwaukee will sit their guys now. The scoring will come down just because it has to. It's not sustainable. Chris Paul, by the way, leading the team in assists, and so take that for what it's worth. Averaging 7.3 assists per game.
That's really going well.
And has yet to punch anybody in the nuts, as far as we know. The season's young. I mean, Draymond has already come up with his suspension. He's probably due for another one. You kind of have to blow it up. You have to get. I mean, there's no Wiggins. There's no Wiggins. Clay looks completely lost. He looks frustrated. Steph can't do what he's been doing. Like it looks like it's starting to weigh, So it was a mistake to rebuild on the fly when they tried with James Wiseman. Like they tried that youth movement while maintaining their guys with Jordan Poole and James Wiseman and Jonathan Kuminga, and it didn't work. So if things continue the way they are, where currently the Golden State Warriors are 9-11, by no means out of it. They're not in what we like to call Detroit Pistons land, but they're not, you have the Lakers, you have the Kings, you have the Suns. Those guys are head and shoulders above everybody. The Clippers are starting to figure it out. They're 9-10. So I don't know if the Warriors are up for this fight. Now, if I'm the GM, there's a certain team that needs a veteran presence and a shooter. A team that's on the bubble, that's on the come up, that could use a Klay Thompson. The Orlando Magic. I think it would behoove him. I think it would behoove them to make that move and get out from under Klay while you can, get some pieces back, and accelerate the process. Because if you're looking at it, I just don't see at this rate how they're going to proceed forward. Because there really does not appear to be, it doesn't appear to be any advancements moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the boat that this needs to get blown up. I think teams start out bad, they get good, they become great, then they're good, and then they go bad again. It's just a cycle. They couldn't be good forever. Their style of play has been adapted and improved on by other teams. They're not the team from 2015 or 2016 when they were just unstoppable. They're just it's over. Klay doesn't shoot like that. He's not that player anymore. And then what's his name? Can't escapes me right now. Wiggins hasn't turned out to be the player that they need him to be. Like, the whole idea for Wiggins was him to come in and lock down the other team's best scorer, right? As it's like, take the pressure off Klay so Klay could just focus on shooting. And he's not doing that. Like, he got his chip and he's just meh. So yeah, I think they blow it up, and I think this is probably part of the reason why Bob Myers left, right? He saw this was coming. The writing was on the wall. We're just not competing at a high level anymore, and nobody's willing to just let this shit go. Like, they're just sticking around with it for too long. And there's a market for them. There's a market for every single one of them. And the move is to keep Steph and get rid of everybody else. Like, literally get rid of everybody else. Like, Steph has to have a phenomenal game for them to win games. And that's just not sustainable. Like, he's just going to get hurt, or it's just going to fall apart down the stretch. If you want to keep Chris Paul, that's fine. But I think Draymond, move him. Klay, move him. Especially Klay. He's in the last year of the contract. Like, he's not coming back. Get something for him. You could move him to the 76ers. You could move him to the Knicks. You could move him to the Pelicans. You can just go to him and ask him where he wants to go. I think they've all earned that. They built that arena. All those guys built that arena. They earned the right to say, hey, guys, listen, it's not working. We're not going to win a championship this year. Have you seen the Milwaukee Bucks play? We're not going to win a championship this year. So where would you like to go? I will try to facilitate a trade to that location. And if I can't, you're still leaving. Everything will be done before the trade deadline. Don't wait till the trade deadline. There's no point in waiting. We've seen enough. I've seen enough. They can't compete against the best the East has, and they can't compete against middle of the pack West teams. I mean, Sacramento is the biggest thorn in their side right now. Sacramento's got their number. Like, they figured it out. You know what I mean? They figured it out. Like, we're better than you. We're never going to let you beat us in a playoff series again. We're taking the torch from you. It's a wrap.
And we got to think about this too, right? We're 19 games in. There's a certain guard in Memphis who's going to be coming back from suspension soon. You don't think the Grizzlies are going to go on a heater once he comes back?
Yeah.
I think that John Morant is going to be the rising tide that floats that boat. But, I mean, the Warriors could hang around. The problem is they're a proud franchise. Are they settling for hanging around? Because you're looking at the Rockets. The Rockets are young.
Yeah.
Right? Are the Rockets going to be able to do this?
Seems
I
like
don't know
Udoka
that.
could really coach.
Udoka's a good coach. He can't keep it in his pants, but he
Coach.
can coach.
He coached when he coaching those guys up.
He can definitely coach.
Pop taught him well.
Yeah. And I'm looking at the Rockets because of their youth, and I'm looking at the Pelicans because of Zion. Like, it hinges so much on his health that the Warriors could be in that play-in tournament. But is that enough? Is that enough? Yes, you're in the playoffs, right? You make the playoffs as a 7 or 8 seed. Maybe you steal around, right? Because you're looking at currently, because I mean, the cream will rise to the top. I believe the Nuggets will be at the top at the end of it. When all is said and done, at the end of the season, the Nuggets will be at the top because they're the man. So the Warriors, okay, you survive and you draw the 7 seed. Now you got to play Minnesota or Oklahoma City in the first round. Minnesota, they might be able to take. Oklahoma City, I think they're too young. I think they're too fast. I think they're too good. If you're the 8 seed, you're going to get smoked by the Nuggets. For a franchise that is, running on championships, right? They've got many pelts on the wall. Is that something that excites them? At this point in time, the answer's got to be no. Like, what are we holding on for? Why are we going to do that? So, I would say blowing up is definitely the way to go. Now, what are you going to get back? And how long are you going to wait? Because if you get your guys out now, you'll cut in front of, let's say, the Bulls, for example. Because the Bulls want to move DeMar DeRozan, and they want to move Zach LaVine. Are you going to be patient, or are you going to be aggressive? What's going to get you the better package? With older players, I say you got to be aggressive because you never know, especially with a guy like Klay Thompson who has been injured before, a guy like, Chris Paul who has been injured before, Draymond who's like a minute away from like putting somebody in a chokehold. Like, you got to err on the side of aggression here, and you already made a mistake by being a year too late. Right? Bill Belichick always said you'd rather be a year too early than a year too late when breaking a team down. And he's living by that now. But being too late has ultimately cost the Warriors. But who hasn't been a victim of the too early than too late? The New York Rangers. The New York Rangers are equatorially hot. So we're going to talk a little hockey, and we are going to be biased. Just letting you know. The Rangers are HOTT hot right now. 18-5 to start the season. Now, they did go down to the Senators last night, 6-2. But 18-5-1, still nothing to sneeze at. First in the Metropolitan Division, top of the top. So this begs the question: are the Rangers an elite hockey team?
I'm gonna have to say yes. I think what they're doing qualifies them as elite. I think a lot of credit has to go to the structure, right? I would say the structure of the team, and the coaching. And they're just getting it done on both ends. And there's a defiance in them to, even when they're down, to get back up and to stay in games that I haven't seen in years. And I think we're in for an interesting season. And I do think they are an elite hockey team.
This is the Peter Laviolette factor. You went from Gerard Gallant, who didn't really have his finger on the pulse of the team, too late to make changes, not really adjusting. Peter Laviolette understands this team. He's created this culture of physicality, this culture of grit. And there's a veteran presence on this team that is deep, right? You brought in Blake Wheeler. You brought in Tyler Pitlick. You brought in, Gustafson on the defensive end. You brought in Jonathan Quick. As good as Georgiev was a couple of seasons ago, Jonathan Quick is better. Jonathan Quick has been playoff tested. He's got a thing we like to call a cup. He's been there. He's done that. You go back to the Vinny Trocheck signing. You're creating a grit and skilled team. Right? There's absolutely a mix. There's a blend there, and you're integrating the youth into that mixture of grit and skill. Lafreniere is having an amazing start. Panarin, an amazing start. Keandre Miller looks like a top 4 defenseman. Trouba's Trouba. Right? You have a good mix of youth, a good mix of veteran presence. You have a coach that understands what it takes to get over the hump because he's done it. He's built it from the ground up everywhere he's gone. And the only thing I would be concerned about is the penalty kill. It's at 84.8%. It's okay. You got to be a little better than that. I would say it has to be a little bit better. But as far as this team goes, you have to be pleased with how things are progressing. Right? You have a really stellar season so far from Kreider.
Do you think they need another forward?
Well, it depends. I mean, right now you're relying on Will Cooley and Jimmy Vesey and Blake Wheeler. Like, they miss Philip Hedl. They need a center. Like, I think you would need like a third line center, like kind of what Philip Hedl does. A guy who is skilled, but also can go in and grind defensively, and who can go in, dump and chase, and go after the puck, and just be a nightmare down low. That guy, they already got rid of him twice. Tyler Mott. Like, how many times is this guy going to come back? Is the question. Mater is really good. They could use a little bit more punch, like maybe another winger to supplant a guy like a Vesey or a Cooley in the lineup. They've been linked back to Vladimir Tarasenko, and when he was here outside the playoffs, he played well as a Ranger. Ottawa's not doing much of anything, so I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Vladimir Tarasenko back in the Rangers. Obviously, like, Patrick Kane was somebody that they were monitoring, but he's in Detroit now. So I really don't think they need to get as splashy of an acquisition as a Tarasenko or as splashy as a Patrick Kane like they did last year. But for the right price, you bring in Tarasenko again, or you bring in, a bottom 3, a swing winger who can kind of play up on 2, a good solid 2-way player. I think that would be beneficial. And really, that's what, that's going to be like, those depth moves are what's going to take the team over the top. Because think back to 94. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, well, it's 94. Yeah, of course, 94. But what was the move that really took the Rangers over the top and really cemented that team together? It was getting Matteau. It was getting Noonan. It was getting Steve Larmer. It cost you Tony Amonte. Tony Amonte was a really good player for a lot of years in the NHL. You had to give to get. But if you can get a veteran depth piece who's been there and done that, kind of like what the Penguins have done in the past, that is what's going to galvanize you. And I think that's what's going to sustain this, because they're going to level out. That's just how hockey is. You're not going to stay equatorially hot like this all year. It's impossible. It's too physical of a sport. So you're going to have to do what you got to do. But who would you target? I know that, pie in the sky, everybody would want Connor McDavid or something like that if he becomes available. But who, what are you looking at? If you're Chris Drury, do you think you need that superstar, or do you need just some fill-in depth players?
I just need some fill-in depth players. I think they could always use another forward, right? I don't think it hurts them. I was kind of disappointed they didn't go after Patrick Kane. I like Patrick Kane. I know he's coming back from a hip injury, but I liked him. I really liked seeing him in a Ranger uniform, and it was unfortunate last year that he was playing hurt and he really couldn't contribute the way he wanted to. But I'm okay with sitting back and waiting to see how the chips fly for now. But I definitely think a depth forward would go a long way for this team.
Absolutely. I think, that's definitely a good way to go. And the other thing is health. You got to keep your guys healthy, and that's been the bugaboo for the Rangers teams of past, that they didn't have the depth to sustain major injuries. And that's really what sustains, that's really what keeps teams like the Bruins or teams like the Avalanche. That's what keeps them up near the top, is that they have the depth. And Drury's made really smart moves. He absolutely has made really smart moves. And, who's to say that a guy like a Johnny Gaudreau doesn't become available because Columbus is the drizzling shits? It'll be hard not to pass it up. It would be due diligence to make a phone call. A splashy player isn't required, but that depth, there are plenty of guys on that team. There are plenty of professionals out there that you can find that can fill out a roster, right? And there are plenty of players out there who can fill a role and can sustain this and keep the Rangers afloat. But let's just sit back for now, take it in, let it wash over you. just let it wash, right? The New York Rangers, the Boston Bruins, and the Vegas Golden Knights are the three best teams in the NHL. And if you had the Rangers in that conversation at the beginning of the season, I would have called you a liar. Because, no. So drink it in, let it wash over you, and let's just see where this ride takes.
Are you in need of air care maintenance or service? I have the company for you. Air Care Technicians. They service the Westchester and Northern Bronx area and can help you with all your heating and cooling, maintenance, and service needs. Just give them a call at 914-315-1547. Again, that's 914-315-1547. Or shoot them an email at aircaretechnicians@gmail.com. These guys are the real deal, as they are veteran-owned, licensed, and insured. Make sure to tell them that D&Z sent you.
The choice is yours. Swipe left or swipe right.
All right, boys and girls. Special edition of Swipe Left or Swipe Right, because we're actually swiping on people, much like online dating. If you like them, you swipe right. If you don't like them, you swipe left. Swipe left or swipe right on Alex Verdugo as a Yankee.
You know, at first I was swiping left in this, but I gotta swipe right. I gotta think that this is going to be a good move for them. It's a lefty bat. He's a solid player. He's got a little bit of an attitude problem, but I think he's going to fit in well with that lineup. He's going to play angry against Boston, which will make Yankee fans happy, and he's going to have to shave, so that should be interesting.
He's got to shave. He's got to take the grills out. He's got to take the earrings out. Like a lot's got to happen for Mr. Verdugo. But I mean, he's entering his age 28 season, so he's entering the prime of his career. I gotta swipe right on him as well. Short porch, lefty. Like, what more do you need to say about that? He averaged with the Red Sox so anywhere between 11 and 13 home runs per season. That's going to go way up with a short porch in right field. You definitely could see him double, maybe 27 to 30 is well within the range, especially if the Juan Soto trade goes through, right?
Right.
How do you construct this lineup? If you have Glaber 1, Verdugo 2, Soto 3, Judge 4, or, Judge 3, Soto 4, all of a sudden you're going to get really good pitches to hit, because they don't want any part of Soto. They don't want any part of Judge. So all of a sudden, you're going to get primo pitches to hit. And when he's not playing like head up his ass baseball, which he has done from time to time, not hustling, like really just playing wild baseball. He's a very good defender too. He is a spark plug. Now it's managing the spark. And I think Alex Cora kind of lost it. And I mean, I don't know if Aaron Boone can kind of contain Alex Verdugo. Maybe that's the job of Brad Ausmus. Maybe that's why Brad Ausmus is here. But for what they gave up for him, this is a huge swipe right. Huge swipe right. Swipe left or swipe right. Number 2, Jared Kelenic on the Atlanta Braves.
Yes! Swiping right. Love it. Just got to get his strikeouts down. I'm optimistic that the Braves and their coaching staff can work with this kid and figure it out. But wouldn't it be the ultimate kick in the ass for this guy to come back and haunt the Mets for the next 10 to 15 years? I mean, I think his window is more like a 5-year window. But the Braves have a history of getting guys and being able to turn them around. I think they did a good job with Ankiel. They did a good job with Ozuna. So yeah, I'm excited about it. For a bag of beans too.
Yeah, I mean, you had to take on Marco Gonzalez's contract, but then you flip him to the Pirates for cash. So yeah, realistically, it's a shrewd move. It was a very shrewd move by 2 shrewd GMs. But from a pure performance standpoint, you have to swipe left. I'm not a fan. I haven't seen I haven't seen anything that is like, wow. And this is It's
This is
very
all for the
much-
upside, though, Z. It's for the upside. We're looking to get the best out of this kid. That's what we're looking for here.
That's the only thing you can hope for. Because
It's on the upside. We're betting on the upside.
now in Truist Park, where the ball flies out compared to T-Mobile or whatever they're calling Safeco these days,
Whatever it's called.
whoever bought the naming rights this go around, Truist, that ballpark is a launching pad. So another guy whose home run totals can skyrocket, what's the rest of his line going to look like is the question. And how long before he's in Gwinnett pouting because he's not on the major league roster? Because that's what he's demonstrated at the big league level.
He's a good powder.
He's a good powder, and he's streaky. So he'll go on a hot streak, then he'll go on an equatorially cold streak, right? He'll be hot, and then he'll be glacially cold, and he'll be back in Gwinnett pouting that he didn't get his opportunity.
Sounds like a Met already.
Sounds like a Met. The Mets won that trade.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the Met, I can't believe I'm saying it's Brody Van Wagenen.
Well, as of today, yes.
As of today, and you know what? I'll take the elite closer. I'll take Edwin Diaz. It didn't start off well, but it's ending well. Kelnick. The good thing about Jared Kelnick is he's 23. Plenty of time. There's plenty of time for him to grow, but right now, I'm swiping left. I haven't seen enough promise to warrant it. Swipe left or swipe right on Shohei Ohtani to the Blue Jays.
Oh, swiping left. I have to imagine that these meetings with Toronto are just to drive the price up. I can't imagine this guy, with all the choices he has going to Toronto. Like I can't see it. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying I can't see it. And yeah, I mean, kudos for them for even getting to have a conversation with him.
All right, so this because Shohei Ohtani is such a unicorn, right? And he's so different than everybody else. You kind of have to parse him into players, right? As Shohei Ohtani, the hitter, I'm swiping right. That lineup, you stick him in there with Bo Bichette and Vladdy G, George Springer. That ballpark, the ball flies. He would have a very good resurgence, right? He'll be just fine. Shohei Ohtani, the pitcher, I'm swiping left on Toronto. I want no part of that ballpark for the exact same reason that I want it all as a hitter. Right? That roof makes a difference. It is a launching pad when that roof is open. And I can definitely see him not being happy about that. So you split the difference, right? Next year he's just a hitter. You sign a 1-year deal. If you're Ohtani, kind of rehab up a little bit, hit the market again. What do you think about something like that? Do you think a short-term deal like that would be possible, and then kind of hit the market again and see if you can cash in because you're going to be 100% healthy from your surgery?
You're saying it like in my point of view as like his agent, as him, in what retrospect?
As the agent.
Nah.
Right? If you're going into these meetings and you're seeing that these teams have concerns.
Nah, because I can get somebody to give me I can get the Dodgers to pay me. Like that's the way I look at it. Like if I'm his agent, that's what I'm telling him. I'm telling him we're signing with the Dodgers unless you want to play somewhere else for less money. But if you want to win, you want to make money, you want to be closer to home, LA is the way to go. Now, if I was him, I probably want to be a Giant.
Mm.
I want to play for the Giants. I don't want to play for the Dodgers. Dodgers already got stars. You don't need me. I'm just gonna be another guy, batting between Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts. But if I go to the Giants and the Giants are like, "Hey man, we want to build around you. We don't need you to close. We want you to close games. We don't want you to be a starter here." I'm like, okay, yeah, I could get on board with that. I could hit the ball into the water. That'd be fun, you know. That's me. That's what I would do if I was him.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, it seems to me like West Coast is the way for him to go.
Yeah,
I
let the East Coast boys, like, you know, if I was him, the only other, this might sound weird to you, but the only other outside of the Giants and the Dodgers, right?
Mm-hmm.
The only other team that I would entertain would be the Rangers, because they just won.
Really,
I'd entertain it.
But here's the thing:
they just won. They just won, and they won with garbage. They won with garbage.
Yeah, but you know what?
And I would think that, and for me, I think Corey Seager is probably the best player in the league right now, or playing like it. He's playing like the best shortstop in the league. He's a top 10 player. I'm like, all right, they got Corey Seager. They've got Marcus Semien. They've got a decent starting rotation. DeGrom is supposed to come back. I could close here. I could get paid here. I could build a fortune here. I'm going to win here. We're going to win. Like, you know, they won without me, so they're going to win with me. You know, that's the only other wrinkle that would be in my cap right now is I would listen intently to the Ranger meetings on what they're thinking and how they're seeing it play out.
See, I don't know. For the same reason that you're not sold on the Dodgers, I'm not sold on the Rangers. Like, you'd be just another guy on that team. Like, as good.
But am
as
I really
are,
like? They don't have. I mean, yeah. I think I'd be a bigger star than Semien is. I'm bigger than Semien. Here's
the thing.
I'm not bigger than Seager. I'm definitely not bigger than Seager because he's got 2 rings and an MVP. I mean, he got 2 MVPs, right? He was the MVP of this last one too.
Yep. He was
So I'm not bigger than Seager, but I'm bigger than Semien, and I'm bigger than DeGrom, and I'm bigger than, you know, all their pitchers. But if I go to LA, I'm just another star, man, and I'm just another guy. Like, they got Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts. Like, you can put me between those guys. It doesn't matter what I do, or, you know.
No, that's true. Now, they are playing coy though. They are definitely like they're trying to keep things very close to the vest, and they want no leaks, and teams are leaking left and right. Now, when you boil it down, when you come right down to it, money's gonna talk.
Yeah.
So I don't think that they're gonna be penalizing like the Dodgers for leaking or the Blue Jays for leaking.
No.
I don't know. At this point, wherever the check clears. So you're looking. It drives the price
up.
Now you're looking. I mean, I still think the Orioles would be a very intriguing move. Now, long term, yeah, you'll have him in the rotation.
Like as like, are you Ohtani or are you the agent? Like, what's making you say it's intriguing, or just as an analyst? You just looking at this?
I'm just looking at it from an analyst.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess
it's a good young team.
Mm-hmm.
That ballpark with Ohtani, right? Mm-hmm. He's hitting 35 bombs, 40, 50. He will be consistently over 50 in that ballpark.
Uh-huh. You want to live in Baltimore though? How do you sell Baltimore? How do you sell Baltimore to him?
It's small, it's quiet, it's everything you said you wanted when you came to the States, right? You didn't want the media eye. That's why you didn't sign in the Bronx. You didn't want that. That's why you didn't sign with the Dodgers. That's why you picked Anaheim, California. That's why you picked that, in case you didn't know. In case you forgot. That's what you wanted. So they're young, they're good, and I think that they're under the radar enough that I'm not gonna I'm gonna be able to live a comfortable life, and I'll be fine with that. I mean, it's not like he's gonna end up in Tampa Bay, right? He's not. They're never gonna pay. Now, Florida and Texas make sense because of the no state income tax, but the Marlins would never pay, and the Rays would never pay. So that leaves you with the Astros, and that leaves you with the Rangers. That would be hilarious if he ends up in the Astros. That would be awesome for all the wrong reasons. It's like, dude, what the fuck? But specifically for the Blue Jays, man, I don't see a complete fit because he's going to get back on the mound. If he was just hitting, I'd be all for it. But, yeah, north of the border, I'm swiping left in that instance.
Your favorite podcast has its own merch line now. Go to the Fade Store with DNZ.com today for all your Fade Route merch needs. I'm talking tank tops, t-shirts, sweatshirts, like yoga pants, we got those too. Like some cool accessories, we got those too. And we're not done yet. We have so much more planned for you, but check out what we have today at the Fade Store with DNZ.com. That's the Fade Store with DNZ.com. The Fade Store presents the Alleged Superstar of the Week Award.
It's time for the Alleged Superstar of the Week. How it goes, we put them and you vote. And the winner of said vote. And a shout out on this here show. And do you know who took home the coveted ass trophy last week, D?
I don't.
Carolina Panthers. Still.
Studs.
Fantastic. Absolute studs. Studs. We cannot get rid of them. But that was last week. This is this week. Who are your nominees for Alleged Superstar, D?
All right, first up, I've got the Spurs, the San Antonio Spurs. The whole team, 14-game losing streak, 3-16 record on the season. So much for having Wembanyama, so much for having the first pick, so much for a playoff berth. San Antonio Spurs, you are my Alleged Superstar of the Week. Number 2, Robert Saleh. Gonna keep voting him until he wins it. Yesterday, you were not ready to name Zach Wilson the starter, and today you are. Amazing. What does this guy do in practice? That's what I want to know. The Jets are a circus. The Jets are a joke. The Jets are garbage. Robert Saleh, you are my Alleged Superstar of the Week. And last but not least, Patrick Mahomes. What? Patrick Mahomes this season, 667 win percentage, 2.2 touchdown interception ratio, 95 passer rating, only 10.4 yards per completion. Z, even you could do that. And only one game-winning drive. Those sound like Tommy DeVito numbers, bruh. Patrick Mahomes, you are my Alleged Superstar of the Week. Z, what do you got?
My only question is, does Mama Mahomes make good chicken cutlets?
That's a negative.
That's probably a negative.
Tommy Cutlets, baby.
I saw that. I saw that shirt. I'm very tempted to get one, but I don't know. I'm gonna hold off just a wee bit longer. I'm gonna start with the NCAA. Florida State did everything you asked them to do. Went undefeated, ran the table, beat Louisville, won the ACC title. I just kidding. No. We're going to put in one-loss Alabama ahead of you because...
Alabama.
Why? Because, your quarterback is hurt. So, 0 losses, 1 loss. Last time I checked, 1 is more than 0. Undefeated is undefeated. And the NCAA punted on this because they didn't want to see a potential blowout. That's what sports are for. You're really underestimating the fact that Florida State can go and win this game. NCAA, you are my alleged superstar of the week. Number 2, Joe Beningo, formerly of WFAN, an occasional guest on WFAN. Now, podcast host, like all of us, leaking texts between you and Robert Saleh, reading them on air, paraphrasing them on air. That is a breach. Now, I know that, this has been a major, story the past few days, and, who's, a super fan, and what exactly is Joe Beningo? First and foremost, you had a radio show, you have a podcast, you're media, bro. So you crossed the line there. One, in not going on or off the record, right? Not making this known to Saleh. Would Saleh have said the same things if he had thought he was on the record? And number 2, that's a breach. You don't share a private conversation or a conversation with the expectation of privacy on the fucking radio. On the radio. Not just I told my friend and then he told somebody else. You were on the fucking radio on Tiki and Evan. You were on a major market afternoon drive time radio station. What did you think was going to happen? Joe Beningo, you are my alleged superstar of the week. And last but not least, Jamal Adams. Going after a reporter and his fiance because he criticized your play. So the reporter commented, "Yikes," on X after Jamal Adams gave up the go-ahead touchdown pass in the Cowboy game. Adams, in turn, posts a picture of the reporter. Oh, it's his wife. Adams reposts a picture of the reporter and his wife, along with the comment, "Yikes." Bro, what are you doing?
That's awesome.
And then the comeback is, well, you go low, I go lower. Yeah, no, absolutely not. What the hell are you doing? That is way out of bounds. And you know what? I mean, I think the reporter's wife earned a free shot. Like, that's really uncalled for. You didn't need to bring her into it. There was absolutely no reason for you to go there. Jamal Adams, you are my alleged superstar of the week. And then a bonus, because of there is the ongoing saga of one Mr. Josh Giddey. Allegedly, we don't know, it's still working its way out. Allegedly, Mr. Giddey has had a relationship with an underage girl.
Ooh.
Yeah. So he is now 21. At the time, he claims that she said she was 19 when she was actually 15. So it is unseemly, to say the least. The NBA is investigating it. Josh Giddey is going through the process. Gloria Allred, I believe, is representing the defendant in this, the accusing, I should say. And we will see how this plays out. But this is not a good look for Josh Giddey. This is not a good look for the Oklahoma City Thunder. This is not a good look for the NBA. It is a bad look all the way around. Josh Giddey, we're going to see how this plays out. You may be the alleged superstar of the week for a very long time. I think we've said our piece. Go to our X account at FadeRouteDNZ and vote, and vote, and vote, and vote. And for our nominees.
Just do better, boys. Just do better.
This has been the Fade Route with DNZ. Thanks for tuning in. Catch our podcast on Wednesday nights on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. So until next time, stay faded, everyone.
Time for us to run the go route. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of our podcast. If you like what you heard and want to hear more, be sure to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Rate us 5 stars, leave us a review, turn on subscription notifications, and tell your friends. Spread the word, spread it wide.